Over Nintendo's long history of making Super Mario Bros. Games, they've been able to produce some instant classics which have changed the platforming genre forever. What makes these games so great are their ingenious and innovative level design, along with each game having fresh mechanics that set it apart from the previous. However, not every single level in each game is a masterpiece, and some fall so flat that it looks like Nintendo just misses the mark altogether. My name is Copycat, and in today's video, I'm going to show you all the worst level in every Mario game. Of course, a video like this is a bit subjective, so you're not going to agree with every level on this list. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel while hitting that bell button to stay notified when I upload new videos. Almost everyone who's played the original Super Mario Bros. Game knows about the dreaded World 8-3 level. What makes this level so annoying to play are the large amount of enemies blocking your path from Koopa Troopas, Paracoopas, Bullet Bills, Piranha Plants, but most notably, the incredibly difficult to pass Hammer Bros. It's not an overly long level, but it takes you out of your flow and you'll have to wait for the right moment to pass by each enemy. The Japanese sequel to Super Mario Bros. Is considerably harder, with tons more enemies on each level, and much more difficult platforming than the original. In fact, this game was viewed as too hard for North American audiences and wasn't released there until Super Mario All-Stars. The worst level in this game is World D3, which is essentially a remake of 8-3 from the original but on steroids. There's a crazy amount of enemies that want to kill you, and a few sections that literally make you stop where you are, and make you have to perform some really tight platforming to pass. All in all, it's safe to say that no one likes facing a horde of Hammer Bros. In the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2, which is just a reskin of a Japanese game called Doki Doki Panic, the worst level has to be the final one, World 7-2. Instead of a level with difficult enemies and challenging platforming, this one is basically a giant maze with only a few hard sections, but overall it comes across as annoying. If you use Princess Peach, however, it makes this level considerably easier, and you can precisely land where you need to, avoiding most of the enemies along the way. Either way, for a final level of such a great game, I think fans deserved a lot better. Choosing the worst level in Super Mario Bros. 3 was extremely hard, as almost all of them come across as iconic and bring back a flood of great childhood memories. However, if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with the World 8 tank level, as it really breaks the flow of the game, is tedious, and overall is a bit too boring in such an amazing game. The auto-scrolling aspect that's usually applied to airship levels just doesn't feel right being used here, and the cycle of just having to avoid bomb-bombs and dodge wrenches from the rocky wrench moles becomes repetitive after a while. On top of all this, Nintendo decided to add a black background in the NES version, which completely blended in with the enemies coming towards you. This was at least fixed a bit in the Super Mario All-Stars version, but it doesn't change how much of a letdown this level is. The first Mario handheld game, Super Mario Land, doesn't necessarily have any bad levels, but includes an unlockable game mode that falls considerably flat of expectations. Once you beat the main game, a hard mode becomes a playable option, but unfortunately not much changes other than a few enemies being added to each level. Now I'll have to give Nintendo a little bit of a pass, as this is an original Game Boy game and I feel like there was pressure to add this mode at the last minute, as it really doesn't feel fleshed out at all and kinda comes across as a bit lazy. Even though all the secret Special Zone levels in Super Mario World are meant to be much more difficult than any others in the game, the worst has to be Outrageous for being just exactly that. This level is absolutely crowded with Wigglers, Piranha Plants, Bullet Bills, and Flying Hammer Bros who all want to kill you while you try to reach the end goal. This one gets old extremely quick, and I can't tell you how many times I got frustrated losing Yoshi to enemies trying to kill me. Honestly, there were a few Special Zone levels I could have included in this video, but Outrageous just takes the cake. Even though the Space Zone in Super Mario Land 2 was innovative and inspired other levels in the Mario franchise, it comes across now as a bit outdated and void of a lot of content. This zone in the game consists of two separate levels that both have the same low gravity mechanic that feels a bit janky, especially when you compare it to later games in the series. I understand what Nintendo was trying to create with a level like this, but if they didn't have the technology to do it at the time, then they probably shouldn't have attempted it. After a few long conversations with friends who are diehard fans of Super Mario 64, We came to the conclusion that by far the worst level in the game has to be Dire Docks. I even remember when I was a young kid playing this level, I always felt like it wasn't fully completed and the starts were way too easy. On top of that, every single time you start the level, you have to swim through the same long underwater tunnel to get to the main area, which just becomes tedious and repetitive the 6th time you do it. In such an amazing game, I feel like Nintendo just ran out of time and added a level that wasn't completely done.
I think most people who've played Super Mario Sunshine agree that most levels in the game aren't absolutely amazing, but one is considerably worse than the others, which is Serena Beach. This level is home to one of the most boring boss fights in any Mario game, and this doesn't only affect casual gamers, but can be a nightmare for speedrunners. This is due to the fact that the movements of the Manta Ray boss are completely random, and at times is one of the huge deciding factors in speedruns for losing or making up massive amounts of time. This boss battle just feels uninspired, and the level itself is considerably smaller than the rest. At the time of its release, New Super Mario Bros. Felt like a fresh take on the classic 2D Mario formula. However, it does have one really annoying level in World 8-7, which is full of dreaded Hammer and Boomerang Bros, along with tons of Koopa Troopas. Of course, if you have the Fire Flower power-up, then this level isn't extremely hard, but without it, it just comes across as incredibly annoying. By far the worst level in Super Mario Galaxy is also the most disappointing, as it's supposed to be the grand finale of the entire game. Instead, it's just a rehash of the very first level, with the addition of purple coins which are laid out in an obvious linear pattern to be collected. I'm not sure why Nintendo decided to name this level Grand Finale, but I can guarantee you that when every player reached this endpoint of the game, they were left incredibly disappointed. By far the worst level in New Super Mario Bros. Wii has to be World 9-7. Nintendo decided to try something a bit different here, with ice blocks acting as the main platforms for the entire level, with fire-spitting piranha plants having the ability to melt them. Now, this sounds cool on paper, but in reality this idea never really pans out, as the level is just way too easy, and if you have the Fire Flower power-up, it actually makes it even easier. I think Nintendo was on the right track with this idea, I just think it comes across as a bit sloppy, and there are probably similar levels that people have made in Super Mario Maker that are way better than this one. In Super Mario Galaxy 2, there's one level that comes to mind that's definitely the worst in the entire game, and that has to be the Rolling Masterpiece Galaxy. Now, the level design itself and idea behind the mechanics of the galaxy are fine. Mario gets on top of a ball and rolls through the level a la Super Monkey Ball. It's just that the gameplay is limited to really difficult motion controls using the Wiimote that falls extremely flat. These motion controls are a bother and never quite worked properly in several Wii games, and it's always unfortunate when a developer is forced to include these in their games when you can tell they really don't want to. The worst level of Super Mario 3D Land is also the final one of the game, S8 Crown. This level is more annoying than hard, where you have to dodge a barrage of bomb-bombs and make some very precise jumps while traversing on a moving platform. On top of all of this, a Shadow Mario chases you around for a portion of the level, which makes things more difficult as you now have to rush, especially if you don't have the Super Leaf power-up. You have to give Nintendo a little bit of a pass on this game, as they did come up with some relatively new Mario game concepts, but I just think this final level could have been done a lot better. One of the biggest complaints about New Super Mario Bros. 2 was how it was too similar to its predecessor, as it reused several of the same ideas from the first installment. However, no level was as bad as the final one that used an incredibly annoying flash mechanic which would cause you to die if you weren't behind a wall or pillar. This, coupled with the many obstacles in your way, leads to an annoying amount of deaths. But what's even more disappointing is the final Bowser boss battle, which is literally the exact same from the first game. I get that there's only so much you can do from a 2D perspective, but I expect Nintendo to be a bit more original than this. New Super Mario Bros. U has one of the worst and most troll levels Nintendo has ever made, titled Don't Touch Anything. Now, unlike the Rube Goldberg-esque type levels that can be found in Super Mario Maker where you literally don't have to even touch the controller, the awful challenge in this level is that if you touch any enemies or collect only 6 coins, you will fail. Now, this is a lot harder than it seems, as the coins are laid out on Mario's natural parkouring path, and there are hordes of Lakitus tossing Spinies towards your direction, putting your Mario platforming skills to the test. This level takes hours to master and is hands down one of the most frustrating levels I've ever played in a Mario game. Super Mario 3D World is home to one of the weirdest and worst levels at the same time, Sprawling Savannah. There's really not much to this pretty simplistic level, and on top of that there's an entire open field section where you actually just roam around looking for a few hidden stars. Now, in a game that's supposed to focus on 3D platforming, it just comes across as a bit lazy to include an open concept level. If you guys have been following my channel recently, then you'll already know what I think about the Ruined and Cloud Kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey. Both of these kingdoms are incredibly small, and I feel like Nintendo missed out on the opportunity to expand on these, which definitely deserve more love than was shown. This is definitely the case when you return to both of them, as there's really not much replayability. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you thought about it, and of course subscribe to my channel. Also, if you haven't yet, please follow my Instagram at Copycat Gamer, where I post some cool clips, funny videos, and amazing collector's items. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.